What's up, everybody? Brendan here, the Gut Whisperer. And for those that don't know, I am in Costa Rica. And in this video, I want to share with you my experience embarking on my first ever 5-day water fast. The reason why I chose to do a water fast here, simply because when I first arrived, obviously I would have to get groceries, I would have to do some running around and get myself familiar with my surroundings and the whole town and all that stuff. And where I am right now in Costa Rica, it's in a place called Roma del Mar, and it is totally far off from the beaten path. I'm roughly around 25 minutes from a small town called Jicaral, Jicaral, Jicaral. And from Jicaral, it's about, I'm going to say 2 hours or so to Liberia, which is the main hub. That's where I flow into. And then also, some people are probably familiar with like Samara, Nosara, Tamarindo, I think that's what it's called. And all of those places are very, very heavily populated with tourists. I decided to go completely off the beaten track where no tourists go, basically, totally submerge myself in the jungle, legitimately, just so I can be away from everything. I decided to stay here for about 2 months. This is a vacation, but at the same time, a work vacation, hence why I'm talking in my mic and to the camera right now. I brought all my podcast equipment, my interviews, I'm doing Zooms, I'm working with my clients. So that's one of the amazing things about being able to work online, and this has been a long time coming. So this is a big test for me to see if I can possibly relocate or possibly live abroad all over again and work from remote. For those that don't know, I used to live in Jamaica. I used to live in Cayman Islands. At the time I had my own like party boat company in Jamaica. And then I moved to the Cayman Islands and I was working for a company, a big beach club facility. I was doing all their events and stuff like that. But that was a long time ago. And then I went into medical school and holistic nutrition, and here I am now. So in this video, I want to share with you my experience embarking on my 5-day water fast. Again, I did it at the beginning because it was easy. I didn't have to do groceries. I didn't have to do any running around. And at the same time, I chose to do a water fast because of the so many healing properties that come along with a fast. When I work with clients, I get them to do a 3-day or sometimes even a 5-day juice fast. And in many cases, for my clients, it's the first time they've ever embarked on a juice fast, right? So when I'm providing them with juices, it's a heck of a lot easier for the first time around than going cold turkey with nothing, no juice, no food, and just water. Now, that being said, 5 days of just water, in my experience, was a heck of a lot easier than 3 days of juices. I suppose that's because there's a blood sugar effect, and you've got this sense of some type of nourishment in the body, and you're not really going into autophagy and mitophagy, and I'll explain that later on in the video. So in my experience so far, the water fast was easier. But again, I'm an experienced fasting. So I've done, I would say, at least several juice cleanses, 3 days, 2 days, 4 days. But this is the first time I've ever done an exclusive 5-day water fast. So why would I want to do a water fast? Well, there's so many benefits, and we know that when the body is in a fasted state, it is also in a healing state. So what happens is when the body doesn't have any nourishment, we know that the body has excess stores of energy in the form of fat, right? Fat is essentially the body's emergency fuel resource, right? And when you are in a fasted state, the body starts to use up all of the glucose and all of the glycogen. That's sugar, essentially. Carbohydrates turn into glucose, and then multiple units of glucose is called glycogen. Glycogen is stored in the liver and the brain and the muscles and so forth. But when the body utilizes all of the glucose and then all of the glycogen, right, sugar, Then the body's like, okay, well, what am I going to do now? I need energy. I need to sustain this being, this body, this machine. So it goes into a different state, a metabolic state, and it's called fat burning, essentially. Metabolic flexibility. That's the goal here. And the body starts to use up free fatty acids and then really starts to release old stores of body fat. And so once I get into that state, that's when the energy goes up. That's when a newfound sense of focus goes up. But getting to that state, it can be sort of challenging, especially for someone that's never done it before. So when I did the 5 days, I would say on day 1, about 3/4 way, once the day was almost done. So if I started fasting on Saturday at around 2:00 in the afternoon, once I had arrived. And then once Sunday rolled around, the following day, almost about 24 hours, that's when I really started to feel hungry. I wanted some food. The hunger pains started happening, but I knew that I had to push through. I had to, obviously, right? So that's going to be the first sticky point, I think, for everyone. Within the first 24 hours, maybe around hour, maybe 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, roughly in and around that time, you're definitely going to start to feel some hunger pains. And that's natural, right? That's the body's just naturally going to start to be hungry. And that in and of itself is a great exercise for you to not to succumb to those temptations and those habits, because really that's all they are. They're just habits. We've been just conditioned hours and hours and hours. We got to eat, got to feed the stomach, right? But fasting is an excellent way for us to get in tune with how our ancestors used to live and eat. They were either eating a feast or they were fasting, 2 degrees, right? So day 1, I was able to push through that, get through that tiny little sticky point, and then I just went to bed. And it was a great sleep. I think it was kind of tough just because, right, new surroundings, totally very, very, very hot, but it was pretty decent. Woke up in the morning, so that would have been on Monday, and then that's it. I just decided to just keep on plowing through, drink tons and tons of water. I brought electrolytes. I was maintaining lots and lots of salt. Literally, like every time I would drink water, I would lick my finger and get to some Redmond sea salt and just lick that and then lick it, because I know how important it is to have magnesium and chloride and potassium and manganese. All of those minerals, we are dependent on them. And minerals help actually store water, store fluid within the cells, outside of the cells, within our blood, right? So without minerals, you're going to get really, really depleted. You're going to lose all those electrolytes and you're just going to flush everything out, especially with your sweating in this environment. So it's very, very crucial when you are doing a water fast, you need to stay hydrated and you need to stay mineralized. So again, I used Redmond sea salt. In the caption, I'll just put like an affiliate link, maybe on an Amazon link or just even their website, and you can get it for yourself. This is what you should be salting your meals with anyways. And there's also a product called Relight. And I don't have an affiliation with any of these companies other than like just putting on an Amazon link. Relight is a product, not sweetened. You can get sweetened, but I chose not to, with all of those additional minerals. So again, you use that as a tool to keep you hydrated and keep those minerals in you so you're not sweating them all out. So once day 2 came around, it was pretty easy. It was really, really neat getting into that flow state. And I've heard of people talking about the flow state, and I've heard of people talking about elevated levels of focus, elevated levels of energy, and just like this coasting sort of momentum into the day, into the night, into the morning. And I really got to experience that once I had like kind of like my last poop, and that would have been on probably Sunday night or Monday morning, because my last meal was like Saturday afternoon. So getting into that was really, really cool. And then it was just like plowing all the way through. And then, so day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, day 3, I wanted food. I knew that my body sort of wanted food, but I was like, you know what? I promised myself I was going to do a 5-day fast, so I'm going to do it. And I thought to myself, like, I could eat. I really could. But I was like, no, I got to stick to my guns. It's easy to, succumb to those temptations, but I'm sticking to my original plan. And then on day 4, the morning of day 4, I was having a Zoom call and someone messaged me. He said, come on, man, you promised yourself. And I'm like, yep, no, you're right. So I'm definitely going to stick to that. Pardon me. So day 3, I wanted food, but I kept on going. Day 4, I wanted food, but I kept on going. I was enjoying the process. I really, really was. The biggest thing that I noticed in terms of productivity and focus, I was able to just plow through my reading. I could keep on going. Where normally in the past, it would be sort of a challenge to, go to the next chapter. Or, sometimes you look ahead, you're like, okay, how many more pages do I have to the next chapter? I didn't do that. I was really just enjoying being in the moment, page by page by page, attaining, sort of retaining all of this information. I very much enjoyed that. That was a new sense, almost like I was on Adderall. And if you've ever taken Adderall for those, crazy binge studying nights of school, or if you've got a paper or anything like that, I've done it a couple times and it really did help. But this was a natural state of Adderall just acquired by fasting and drinking only water. So let's go into the science now. If you've stuck with me this long, I appreciate it. Let's go into the science now with what happens when you're in a fasted state. So there's something called autophagy and there's something called mitophagy. And autophagy is a metabolic state, and it's an incredible process on a cellular level. And you can only truly acquire this state, autophagy, when you are in a fasted state longer than roughly around 15, 16 hours. Some people might say it's a little bit earlier. Some people might say it's a little bit longer. But the bottom line is you've got to be in a fasted state for at least 15 hours, like an emptied stomach, or like no longer eating, no more calories for 15 hours. And then your body goes into somewhat of an emergency mode, and it starts to essentially eat up and catabolize other performing or underperforming cells. It's something called apoptosis, or it drives apoptosis. Pardon me again. I just had some raw, fresh, organic milk, and milk does that. Milk does produce excess mucus in the body, so that's why I'm kind of coughing a little bit. So when you're in that state, autophagy happens, right? Cells start to engulf and literally eat up underperforming cells. And we've got this something called cytoplasm, right? And all of the fluid and all of the energy that's in other cells, the body starts to eat up as fuel. And that is called, right, apoptosis, scheduled cell death on purpose, right? So for example, like we all have cancer cells within our body, but through apoptosis, the body eats up and sort of destroys those cancer cells before they really start to regenerate and form at a rapid rate that the body cannot handle. That's essentially how cancer forms, essentially. So when you're in that fasted state, you're driving autophagy, you're driving apoptosis, and you're also driving something called mitophagy. So within our cells, we have mitochondria, and mitochondria is essentially the powerhouse of the cells. It drives cellular regeneration. It's important for us to have mitochondria because it produces energy, essentially ATP. And by going in that fasted state, by driving autophagy and apoptosis, we're also driving mitophagy. We are driving our mitochondria to regenerate, repopulate, and formulate faster and create faster energy, right? And by driving that process, we are regenerating cells at a faster rate. And essentially, we're just creating new healthy cells free from, things that don't necessarily belong because we're not eating, right? And if someone has leaky gut, those cells are regenerating in an environment with inflammation. It's like a cytokine storm. Maybe you've heard of that before, right? Just inflammation all over the body. So what happens is when you're in that fasted state, the body's just engulfing and eating up all of this inflammation. It's getting rid of a lot of cellular debris. It's getting rid of underperforming cells. And we're essentially just cleaning up the body. Here's the other thing, and this is in my wheelhouse, digestion. On a digestive level, the digestive process is one of the most caloric required systems in the body, right? The digestive process requires more calories than the brain needs, more calories than the heart needs on a 24-hour capita basis. The digestive process requires so much energy, right? Because think about it. It's always processing this food and then it's delivering the nutrients for the body to utilize. However, when you're in a fasted state, that digestive process is essentially getting a nice big rest. And all of that potential energy that would have been utilized for digesting food has now been able to take a rest, step by the wayside, and now it's being diverted to all other systems in the body to allow for different types of healing that normally wouldn't even get a chance to a degree because the digestive process is always requiring those ongoing calories. So that's when the body really starts to heal itself, right? Let's say you've got a bum knee, or you got a bad back, or you've got like this lingering scar or like a cut or something like that. When you're in a fasted state, all of those other body systems are truly now finally getting an opportunity to start to heal and mend themselves, which is just so amazing. And this is why fasting is so important. And I've known about fasting for a really long time. And then, my ego, my bodybuilding days, I didn't want to have muscle wasting. And you can have muscle wasting in a fast. Like, let's be real, you will. But if you do it strategically for a certain amount of time, you're not going to get too much muscle wasting. You're going to get a lot of fat burning. And if you keep on going, then obviously the body will start to utilize protein as energy. And the body doesn't want to. Like, that's its last reserve. So one of the influences that I decided to do this 5-day water fast is actually watching videos from the Liver King. And you know what? Hate him or love him, it doesn't matter. The truth of the matter is he is teaching on a fundamental level how humans should basically be living and eating, right? Eating our ancestral ways, living, being connected to the earth and so forth, and then practicing fasting, right? Muslims do this. There are many religions around the world that practice fasting. It's very, very healing. So what he does is, I believe he does a 5-day water fast with his wife twice a year. And then he'll do a 24-hour fast, I think, on Wednesdays and Sundays. And it's just such an amazing concept, right? Because normally, if you're living in the Western world, like, you're always eating, snacking, grazing. Humans did not originally live that way, right? They ate and then they fasted. They were foraging or they were hunting and then they were eating, right? It's one or the other, not both. Where now in the Western society and really globally, we're not eating the way that we should be. We're very, very confusing our bodies, if you will. So if you go back to the old ways, that's how our bodies thrived. That's how humans thrived. So he did a 5-day water fast. I saw that and I'm like, you know what? I'm finally going to do this. And so that's what I decided to do. And I don't regret it whatsoever. Now, I'll just share with you really quick some experiences that I had when I reintroduced foods, because that's something that I saw only afterwards. And one of the things that I kind of regret doing improperly. So when I broke my fast, I feasted to a degree on fruit. So I had pineapple, mango, papaya. And the papaya was still a little hard. So I should have made sure that it should have been really, really ripe. So it was nice and soft. And I should have also been taking additional magnesium citrate, I think, throughout the days, because magnesium citrate helps relax the bowels. And I noticed after my last poop, I didn't poop for like 4 days. And so it's almost like my rectum and my large intestine, like it significantly shrunk. And when I reintroduced those foods, now take into consideration that I also visited a farm that day on my last day when I broke my fast. So I was eating all sorts of different leaves and herbs and spices, just tiny little samples. And I'm wondering if I caught a bug or if it was just the combination of these new ingredients in my body, right? And definitely a tremendous different array of bacteria. So all of those things, when I reintroduced foods, my first poop, it was horrible. I was like constipated, but I needed to go, and it felt like diarrhea, but I was constipated and I couldn't go. And it literally felt like everything was just like backed up at the last part of my anus. And I thought that like I'd almost like hemorrhaged my anus because I just couldn't poop. Like it was painful, really, really, really bad. And I connect that to not taking the magnesium citrate, probably going a little too fast, a little too hot and heavy with the fruit, where I really think that I should have introduced, and this was the original plan, was to take some fresh fruit juice and have a juice cleanse for maybe 2 days after my water fast. And then that would start to stimulate the digestive process again. That would start to help with just like regular bowel movements. I would have probably had some loose stools, and then I should have reintroduced the food strategically. But I didn't do that. Lesson learned. And it's interesting. I saw a lot of people posting on Reddit and just social media and the internet. People did have the same experience, like constipation or diarrhea after a 5-day water fast. And it almost makes it a deterrent for people, because it really was not, like, I was worried. I really was concerned. So I got a natural anti-parasitic medication from a shop here in Costa Rica. And then I took my white willow bark, I took my magnesium citrate, and it took about 48 hours. I was really starting to get concerned, but then everything just calmed down. Since then, I've had some of the best poops that I've ever had in my life. Nice, long snake logs. Really, really cool. So just kind of, if you're deciding or if you want to do a 5-day water fast, definitely continue to take some magnesium citrate as an ongoing tool just to keep your bowels loose. And then once you're going to break that fast, I strongly think some juices might be a good idea, and then go into the food. And I'm eating meat, very, very animal based, and everything's fantastic. So in closing, if you've stuck around this long, I appreciate that. I really am happy that I did it. I'm definitely going to incorporate this for the rest of my life. And look at me, I'm a lot skinnier than I once was. I miss being the bodybuilder that I used to be, but at the same time, I'm shifting with priorities. I'm so focused on work. I'm focused on my spirituality. I'm focused on my energetic body rather than my physical body. Now, my physical body is my driver, is my machine. It's my vessel to let me acquire all the things that I want to do, my travels and business and success. But I'm just using this vessel differently now. And as you get older, I would hope that you realize the same things, that priorities change, work changes, your body changes, and you need to honor that. And so I'm definitely in a state where I'm honoring my body. I'm still working out pretty much every single day. I love my bodybuilding. I love weights, but it's just, I'm changing now, and that's okay. So if this is something that you're scared of and you don't want to lose your muscles or anything like that, just remember that this physical body, it's just a vessel. It's temporary. And your soul and your spirit and your mind, that's forever. So it's okay. Anyways, if you're thinking about doing a 5-day water fast, I strongly recommend it. It is almost like a rite of passage. Maybe you've written a book. That's one thing that's a rite of passage. Doing a 5-day water fast, that is also hands down a rite of passage. Now, it is a lot easier to do a fast like this in the beautiful environment of a jungle. You're totally away from society and everything like that. So I think that if you want to do this, maybe instead of going to an all-inclusive vacation somewhere, I would probably rent a villa, something like this, here in like Roma del Mar, or anywhere in the world for the matter. Even just rent a cottage if you're in Ontario or something like that for a week. And just, obviously, if you want to stay connected with social media, you can, but the best would be to just turn off the phone, disconnect, maybe bring your pet. Like I've got Simba, and I'm so blessed that I get to have her here with me, and just really just disconnect from everything, tune into your body, do some reading, do some writing, do some work, breath work, spiritual work, and just tap into your spirit that way. So all in all, in closing, 5-day water fast here in Costa Rica, highly recommend it. It was an amazing experience. I'm so glad that I did it, and I want to do it again. I probably will. I think I'm probably going to follow Liver King's sort of what he does, probably twice a year, once in the summer, once in the winter, and just live that way, because it truly is remarkable what the body can do when it's in a fasted state. And let's be honest here, when do we ever give our body a chance to be in a fasted state to allow for that type of healing? Almost never. You really have to plan it out. You've got to allocate the time. It's like you take your car for an oil change, regular maintenance and all that stuff. Like, you got to do it. It has to be done, or else the car is going to break down. It's the same thing with your body. It really is. If you've never done a fast before, I strongly suggest maybe a 3-day juice cleanse. And tell you what, if you want to do a 3-day juice cleanse, send me a message or click the link here below, and I'll send you a free guide, a PDF guide that I've done for juicing. Other than that, it's definitely recommended. I love it. I'm so glad that I did it. And I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did like it, hit a like, hit a subscribe, and then I will see you on the next video. Oh, and by the way, if you're interested in working together, or if you want to know more about what I do with my gut rehabilitation process, that's right, I'm also known as the Gut Whisperer, and I help people around the world recover from leaky gut, autoimmune conditions. They want to lose weight, they want to reduce inflammation, they want to improve their skin, maybe they want to step on stage and be a bikini or a bodybuilder athlete or anything like that, or they want to do that as a prep. I can help you with that, all by completely rehabilitating your leaky gut in my 6-week proprietary. This is my exclusive methodology that I've literally perfected, and I'm so proud of it because it has helped people, thousands of people around the world. So with all that being said, thanks for watching. Gut Whisperer out.